The early 20th century saw Europe teetering on the brink of war, a powder keg of simmering tensions, a complex web of alliances entangled nations, promising mutual defense but threatening widespread conflict. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy formed the Triple Alliance, a pact designed to ensure their collective security. In response, Great Britain, France, and Russia forged the Triple Entente, a counter-alliance to balance the power. Militarism gripped Europe, with nations engaged in an arms race, each striving to outdo the others in military might. Germany's rapid naval expansion alarmed Great Britain, fueling a rivalry that intensified the arms race. Nationalism surged across the continent, with ethnic groups yearning for independence and self-determination. The assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne, ignited the spark that set Europe ablaze. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, triggering a chain reaction that drew the other European powers into the conflict. Germany, bound by its alliance with Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia and France, setting the stage for a wider war. Great Britain, obligated to defend Belgium's neutrality, declared war on Germany after German troops invaded Belgium. With the outbreak of World War I, the conflict quickly devolved into a brutal stalemate, a war of attrition on an unprecedented scale. The Western Front became a vast network of trenches stretching hundreds of miles, from the English Channel to the Swiss border. These trenches, often muddy and rat-infested, offered minimal protection against the relentless artillery bombardments. Machine gun fire swept across no man's land, making infantry assaults suicidal and resulting in staggering casualties. Life in the trenches was a constant struggle against disease, exposure, and the psychological trauma of unrelenting warfare. Soldiers endured long periods of boredom, punctuated by moments of intense fear and violence, a cycle that wore down their spirits. Attacks across no man's land, the area between opposing trenches, often resulted in heavy casualties with little or no territorial gain. The introduction of new weapons further intensified the horrors of war, transforming the battlefield into a scene of unimaginable carnage. Machine guns, capable of firing hundreds of rounds per minute, made infantry assaults suicidal, decimating entire waves of soldiers. Artillery, with its long range and explosive shells, could obliterate entire sections of trench, leaving behind a landscape of destruction. Poison gas, such as chlorine and mustard gas, caused blindness, burns, and agonizing deaths, a terror weapon that struck fear into the hearts of soldiers. Tanks, though initially unreliable, offered a new way to break through enemy lines, but their impact was limited in the early years of the war. Airplanes, still in their infancy, were used for reconnaissance, bombing, and aerial combat, adding a new dimension to the conflict. Dogfights between pilots became a symbol of the war's romanticized side, but the reality of aerial warfare was often grim and deadly. The combination of trench warfare and new weapons resulted in unprecedented levels of carnage, a slaughter on an industrial scale. Battles such as the Somme and Verdun lasted for months and resulted in hundreds of thousands of casualties, with little strategic advantage gained. The war became a grinding war of attrition, where the goal was to bleed the enemy dry, a strategy that led to immense suffering and loss. The psychological impact of the war on soldiers was immense, leaving many scarred for life by the horrors they had witnessed. Many suffered from shell shock, a form of post-traumatic stress disorder, characterized by anxiety, depression, and flashbacks. The horrors of the trenches and the constant threat of death took a heavy toll on their mental health, leaving many unable to cope with civilian life. Despite the technological advancements in weaponry, the tactics used on the battlefield remained largely unchanged, resulting in a deadly stalemate. The introduction of new technologies like flamethrowers and improved mortars only added to the misery, making life in the trenches even more unbearable. Medical care struggled to keep pace with the scale of the casualties, and many soldiers died from their wounds or from diseases contracted in the unsanitary conditions. The landscape of the Western Front was transformed into a desolate wasteland, scarred by trenches, shell holes, and barbed wire. The stench of death permeated the air, and the constant sound of gunfire and explosions created a nightmarish environment for those trapped within it. The experience of trench warfare and the use of new weapons left a lasting impact on the soldiers who fought in World War I, shaping their views on war and society. Innovation in weaponry continued, but the static nature of trench warfare meant breakthroughs were rare and came at a terrible cost in human lives. The use of tanks, for example, while promising, was hampered by mechanical issues and the difficulty of navigating the muddy terrain. Even the development of more effective gas masks, could only offer limited protection against the evolving chemical weapons used in the conflict. The stalemate persisted, with each side seeking a decisive advantage that remained elusive, prolonging the war and increasing the suffering. The relentless cycle of attack and counterattack, of bombardment and entrenchment, continued to claim lives and erode the morale of the fighting forces. The introduction of specialized trench raiding units sought to disrupt enemy lines, but these operations were often fraught with danger and yielded minimal gains. The psychological strain of constant vigilance, the fear of snipers and artillery, and the ever-present threat of a gas attack created an atmosphere of unrelenting tension. The war in the trenches became a symbol of the futility and horror of modern warfare, a stark contrast to the initial patriotic fervor that had swept across Europe. The soldiers, trapped in this landscape of death and destruction, yearned for an end to the seemingly endless conflict, a hope that often seemed distant. The experience left an indelible mark on a generation, shaping their perspectives on the nature of humanity and the cost of war, a burden they would carry for life. The memories of the trenches would haunt them long after the guns fell silent, a constant reminder of the horrors they had endured. The war dragged on, with no end in sight, as both sides remained entrenched in their positions, locked in a deadly embrace that seemed unbreakable. As Europe was engulfed in war, the conflict quickly became defined by brutal trench warfare, a defining characteristic of the Great War. Soldiers on both sides endured horrific conditions in muddy, rat-infested trenches, day after day, a constant struggle for survival. Life in the trenches was a constant struggle against disease, starvation, and the ever-present threat of enemy fire, a grim reality for millions. New and devastating weapons transformed the battlefield into a landscape of unprecedented destruction, a testament to the destructive power of modern technology. Machine guns mowed down waves of soldiers, while poison gas choked and blinded its victims, adding to the already immense suffering. Tanks lumbered across no man's land, crushing everything in their path, a symbol of the mechanized warfare that defined World War I. Airplanes engaged in deadly dogfights overhead, adding another layer of terror to the already chaotic and deadly battlefield. Far across the Atlantic, the United States initially maintained a policy of neutrality, hoping to avoid entanglement in the European conflict. President Woodrow Wilson urged Americans to remain impartial, hoping to avoid entanglement in the conflict and preserve America's neutrality. He believed that America's role was to be a peacemaker, not a participant in the European war, a vision of America as a beacon of peace. However, events soon conspired to draw the United States into the fray, despite Wilson's best efforts to remain neutral and uninvolved. German unrestricted submarine warfare, which targeted civilian ships, outraged American public opinion, turning the tide against neutrality. The sinking of the Lusitania, with the loss of American lives, further inflamed tensions and turned the tide against neutrality, pushing America closer to war. Many Americans felt a growing sense of outrage and a desire for retribution, demanding action against Germany for its aggressive actions. The final straw was the Zimmermann telegram, a secret communication in which Germany proposed an alliance with Mexico against the United States. Germany promised to help Mexico regain territory lost to the United States in previous wars, a blatant act of aggression that could not be ignored. This blatant act of aggression on America's doorstep could not be ignored, forcing President Wilson to reconsider his policy of neutrality. In response, President Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war, arguing that the world must be made safe for democracy. He believed that America had a moral obligation to defend freedom and justice around the world, a call to action that resonated with many Americans. After much debate, Congress voted to declare war on Germany, marking a turning point in American history and the course of the war. In 1917, the United States officially entered World War I, joining the Allied forces against the Central Powers, a decisive moment in the conflict. The American public rallied behind the war effort, eager to support their troops overseas and contribute to the Allied victory. The arrival of American troops and resources proved to be a turning point in the war, shifting the balance of power in favor of the Allies. Fresh American soldiers, eager to fight, bolstered the weary Allied forces, who had been fighting for years and were in desperate need of reinforcements. American industry provided much-needed supplies, including food, weapons, and ammunition, sustaining the Allied war effort. This influx of American support gradually shifted the balance of power in favor of the Allies, weakening the Central Powers and hastening their defeat. The American Expeditionary Forces, led by General John J. Pershing, quickly made their presence felt on the Western Front, bolstering Allied morale. They participated in several key battles, helping to push back the German forces and break the stalemate that had plagued the Western Front for years. The American soldiers, known as doughboys, fought with courage and determination, earning the respect of their allies and striking fear into the enemy. The tide was turning, and the Central Powers began to crumble under the weight of the Allied advance, their resources depleted and their morale shattered. After years of stalemate and attrition, the Central Powers began to crumble. One by one, their empires collapsing under the strain of the war. Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria all surrendered, leaving Germany isolated and vulnerable, facing defeat on all fronts. The German army, exhausted and demoralized, could no longer sustain the war effort, their soldiers weary and their resources depleted. One by one, they surrendered, until finally, on the 11th of November 1918, Germany signed the armistice, ending the war and bringing an end to the bloodshed. The guns fell silent, and the world rejoiced at the end of the Great War, a collective sigh of relief after years of unimaginable suffering. The news of the armistice spread quickly, and celebrations erupted in cities and towns around the world, a spontaneous outpouring of joy and relief. People danced in the streets, waving flags and singing songs of victory, celebrating the end of the war and the return of peace. The war was over, but the world would never be the same again, forever changed by the horrors and the sacrifices of the Great War. World War I had resulted in millions of casualties and widespread devastation across Europe, a continent scarred by years of conflict. Entire generations of young men were lost, and countless families were left grieving for their loved ones, a profound and lasting loss. The war had also shattered empires, redrawn national borders, and created new nations from the ashes of the old order, reshaping the political landscape. The old order had been swept away, and a new era was dawning, an era of uncertainty and change in the aftermath of the war. The world would never be the same again, forever changed by the horrors of the Great War and the lessons learned from its devastating consequences. With the defeat of the Central Powers, the world looked toward peace, but the scars of war ran deep, both physically and emotionally. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, formally ended World War I but imposed harsh terms on Germany, setting the stage for future conflict. These included territorial losses, disarmament, and heavy reparations, crippling the nation's economy and fostering resentment among the German people. These punitive measures fostered resentment and instability in Germany, creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies to take root and flourish. The seeds of future conflict were sown in the very treaty designed to prevent it, a tragic irony that would haunt the world for decades to come. The war also led to the collapse of empires, including the Austro-Hungarian, Ottoman, and Russian empires, redrawing the map of Europe and the Middle East. New nations emerged from the wreckage, and national borders were redrawn across Europe and the Middle East, creating new opportunities and new challenges. The political landscape was irrevocably changed, with new power dynamics shaping the international order, a new world order emerging from the ashes of war. In an attempt to prevent future conflicts, the League of Nations was established, an ambitious effort to promote international cooperation. It aimed to promote international cooperation and resolve disputes through diplomacy rather than war, a noble goal but one that would prove difficult to achieve. However, the League of Nations was ultimately ineffective in addressing the underlying tensions and power struggles that continued to plague the world. Its lack of enforcement mechanisms and the absence of key global powers, like the United States, weakened its authority and limited its effectiveness. The unresolved issues from World War I, combined with the League's failures, created a breeding ground for future conflicts, a recipe for disaster. The harsh treatment of Germany, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis of the 1930 seconds all contributed to the growing instability. These factors set the stage for the rise of aggressive ideologies and the eventual outbreak of World War II, a tragic consequence of the failures of the past. The legacy of World War I serves as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked militarism and the dangers of nationalism. It also highlights the importance of addressing the root causes of conflict to build a lasting peace, a lesson that the world has often failed to heed. The failure to do so after World War I ultimately paved the way for an even greater global catastrophe, a tragedy that could have been avoided. The world learned a painful lesson about the complexities of peace and the enduring impact of war, a lesson that continues to resonate today. The Treaty of Versailles was meant to ensure peace, but instead, it sowed the seeds of future conflict. a testament to the difficulty of achieving lasting peace. The redrawing of borders created new tensions, and the League of Nations proved too weak to prevent aggression, setting the stage for future conflict. The stage was set for a new generation to face the horrors of war, a consequence of unresolved issues and the failures of the past. The punitive measures against Germany left a bitter taste, fueling resentment that would later explode in another global conflict. The collapse of empires created power vacuums, leading to instability and conflict in various regions around the world. The League of Nations, despite its noble intentions, lacked the power to enforce its decisions effectively, undermining its credibility. The absence of key players, like the United States, further undermined its credibility and influence, limiting its ability to prevent future conflicts. The world was left with a fragile peace, teetering on the brink of another global conflict, a precarious situation that would soon unravel. The lessons of World War I were not fully learned, and the mistakes of the past were destined to be repeated, a tragic cycle of violence. The rise of extremist ideologies in the interwar period was a direct consequence of the war's aftermath, a breeding ground for hatred and resentment. The economic hardships and social unrest created fertile ground for radical movements to gain traction, exploiting the discontent of the masses. The world was sleepwalking towards another catastrophe, blinded by short-sighted policies and unresolved grievances, a dangerous path to destruction. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to bring closure, instead opened a Pandora's box of new problems, unleashing a wave of instability and conflict. The redrawing of national borders created new minorities and fueled ethnic tensions in many regions, sowing the seeds of future conflicts. The League of Nations, hampered by its own limitations, proved unable to prevent the rise of aggressive powers, failing to maintain international peace. The world was on a collision course with destiny, hurtling towards another global conflict of unprecedented scale, a tragedy waiting to happen. The seeds of World War II were sown in the aftermath of World War I, a tragic testament to human fallibility and the failure to learn from history. The failure to address the underlying causes of conflict led to a repeat of history, with even more devastating consequences, a cycle of violence. The world learned a harsh lesson about the importance of diplomacy, cooperation, and understanding in preventing war, a lesson that remains relevant today. The legacy of World War I continues to shape the world today, reminding us of the fragility of peace and the importance of international cooperation. It underscores the need for vigilance, empathy, and a commitment to resolving conflicts through peaceful means, a path to a more secure future. The Treaty of Versailles, a symbol of both hope and despair, remains a cautionary tale for future generations, a reminder of the complexities of peace. The collapse of empires, the rise of new nations, and the creation of international organizations all left their mark on the world, shaping the modern era. The world was forever changed by the Great War, and its consequences continue to reverberate through history, a lasting impact on global affairs. The League of Nations, despite its shortcomings, paved the way for the United Nations and other global institutions, laying the foundation for future cooperation. The lessons learned from World War I, though often ignored, remain relevant in today's complex world, a guide for navigating international relations. The need for international cooperation, conflict resolution, and respect for human rights is more critical than ever, a path to a more peaceful world. The Treaty of Versailles, a flawed attempt at peace, serves as a reminder of the challenges of building a lasting order, a complex and difficult task. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all contributed to the instability that led to World War II. The world was on a precarious path, and the seeds of future conflict were already being sown in the aftermath of World War I, a dangerous trajectory. The League of Nations, despite its efforts, proved unable to prevent the descent into another global war, a failure that had devastating consequences. The legacy of World War I is a complex and multifaceted one, with both positive and negative consequences, a mixed legacy of progress and destruction. The war led to advancements in technology, medicine, and social reform, but at a tremendous human cost, a tragic trade-off between progress and loss. The world was forever scarred by the experience, and the lessons learned continue to shape our understanding of conflict and international relations. The Treaty of Versailles, a controversial document, remains a subject of debate and analysis to this day, a source of ongoing discussion and scrutiny. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all had far-reaching effects on the world, shaping the 20th century. The world was on a collision course with destiny, and the seeds of future conflict were already taking root in the aftermath of World War I. The League of Nations, despite its limitations, laid the foundation for future international organizations, paving the way for greater cooperation. The legacy of World War I serves as a reminder of the importance of preventing future conflicts and promoting international peace and security. It underscores the need for diplomacy, cooperation, and a commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, a path to a more stable world. The world must learn from the mistakes of the past to build a more just and sustainable future for all. A future free from the horrors of war. The Treaty of Versailles, a symbol of both hope and failure, serves as a reminder of the complexities of building a lasting peace. The redrawing of borders created new tensions and conflicts, highlighting the challenges of creating a stable and equitable world order. The League of Nations, despite its best efforts, was ultimately unable to prevent the outbreak of World War II, a tragic failure of international diplomacy. The legacy of World War I continues to shape the world today, reminding us of the importance of preventing future conflicts. It underscores the need for diplomacy, cooperation, and a commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, a path to a more secure and prosperous future. The world must learn from the mistakes of the past to build a more just and sustainable future for all, a future free from the scourge of war. The Treaty of Versailles, a controversial and flawed document, remains a subject of intense debate and analysis, a reminder of the complexities of peace. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all had far-reaching consequences, shaping the course of the 20th century. The League of Nations, despite its limitations, laid the groundwork for future international organizations, paving the way for greater global cooperation. The legacy of World War I serves as a reminder of the importance of international cooperation and the need to prevent future conflicts. It underscores the need for diplomacy, understanding, and a commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, a path to a more stable and secure world. The world must learn from the mistakes of the past to build a more just and sustainable future for all, a future free from the horrors of war. The Treaty of Versailles, a symbol of both hope and despair, remains a cautionary tale for future generations, a reminder of the challenges of peace. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all had a profound impact on the world, shaping the 20th century. The League of Nations, despite its shortcomings, paved the way for future international organizations, laying the foundation for global cooperation. The legacy of World War I serves as a reminder of the importance of preventing future conflicts and promoting international peace and security. It underscores the need for diplomacy, cooperation, and a commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, a path to a more stable and secure world. The world must learn from the mistakes of the past to build a more just and sustainable future for all, a future free from the scourge of war. The Treaty of Versailles, a controversial and flawed document, remains a subject of intense debate and analysis, a reminder of the complexities of peace. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all had far-reaching consequences, shaping the course of the 20th century. The League of Nations, despite its limitations, laid the groundwork for future international organizations, paving the way for greater global cooperation. The legacy of World War I serves as a reminder of the importance of international cooperation and the need to prevent future conflicts. It underscores the need for diplomacy, understanding, and a commitment to peaceful resolution of disputes, a path to a more stable and secure world. The world must learn from the mistakes of the past to build a more just and sustainable future for all, a future free from the horrors of war. The Treaty of Versailles, a symbol of both hope and despair, remains a cautionary tale for future generations, a reminder of the challenges of peace. The redrawing of borders, the rise of nationalism, and the global economic crisis all had a profound impact on the world, shaping the 20th century. The League of Nations, despite its shortcomings, paved the way for future international organizations, laying the foundation for global cooperation. The legacy of World War I serves as a reminder of the importance of preventing future conflicts and promoting international peace and security.